Hey guys, welcome back to more Supercars with Mabini, and today I'm going to talk about the strongest starts to a Supercar season. Just something that I've been thinking about after we've had the first round at Bathurst. I'm not going to bang on about Bathurst having more than one round in the year. I don't really care about that. The main point that I want to make is whoever got two top 10s in the two races, and there's only a handful of guys who actually managed to achieve that. I went back through the last 20 years of Supercar season starts. If you got two top 10s in the first two races, you would have a much higher chance of winning the championship, just having that good start to the season. Only 3 champions from 2003 to 2023 failed to score 2 consecutive top 10s at the start of the season. Marcus Ambrose in 2003, Russell Ingall in 2005, and Mark Winterbottom in 2015. Every other year, the champion had scored 2 top 10s consecutively in the first 2 races. So let's look at 2024 straight away. We've had that first round. There's only 6 guys now who have that shot at the championship. So we've got Will Brown, Brock Feeney, Chaz Mostert, Dave Reynolds, Nick Percat, and Matt Payne. We could probably narrow it down and say, hey, Will Brown and Brock Feeney are probably going to win the championship, one or the other. We don't really know who yet. But there's a lot of races to go down, so we don't really know. But 2015, Mark Winterbottom had a pretty rough start to the season, and then absolutely smashed everyone in the middle of the season, and then hung on tight and won the championship. 2003, it was a very competitive season between Marcus Ambrose and Mark Scaife. It ended up being, but there was also Greg Murphy in the mix, and Jason Bright and Stephen Richards, lots of guys winning races and challenging. It ended up being Marcus Ambrose from just racking up enough wins. Then you got 2005, which was much more competitive and a bit of a strange one, because Marcus Ambrose almost certainly was going to win the championship. Just silly mistakes and things got in the way, like that crash at Barbagallo, the crash at Bathurst, and a really rough round at Surfers after Bathurst. He just did not seem to have what he needed to win the championship. Russell Ingall just had the consistency, stay out of the way of anything crazy going on, and got it nailed. There are just some years where a guy does really well, and that's just on him for doing that well. Chaz Mostert has actually had really great starts to the seasons every year since he started at Walkinshaw. 4 in a row at the start of 2020, 4 in a row at the start of 21, 2 in a row at the start of 22, and 5 in a row at the start of 23. Having a strong start to a championship run is really important. Scott McLaughlin managed it in 2020, and that was the year where we had the mixed compound tyres, where you were guaranteed to have one race where you weren't going to get a top 10, and that was that second round at Sydney Motorsport Park, the truck assist one. Jamie Whincup was also exceptional at that sort of thing. I think 2018 was the only year that he stuffed it up, and that was at crash at Adelaide. Pretty much since 2007, I could say 2006 as well. Jamie Whincup's name is in there every year. If you want to win the championship, don't do anything too stupid. Just bank in the top 10s, get some good points. But this is the guy that won the first race at the start of the year, several years on the trot. That's just what Jamie managed to do every year, but I think that was also just a 888 thing. That's what they managed to do. Jamie Whincup has had 2 consecutive top 10s at the start of every year from 2006 to 2014, which by itself is a record in the last 20 years. Rick Kelly did a great job from 2006 to 2010. Craig Lowndes was not great at it until 2012, and then from that point onwards, I guess maybe Roland Dane gave him a slap on the wrist and told him to pull his head in and do a better job at the start of the year. Scott McLaughlin, once he worked out that he needed to have clean starts to the year, all 3 of his championships were done like that. James Courtney did it quite a few times for HRT, and Shane Van Gisbergen was only hampered by that suspension failure in Adelaide in 2020. Mark Winterbottom was a big disappointment in that regard, because of 12 seasons that he was at Tickford, only 3 times did he have 2 consecutive top 10s. He was a shocker when it came to the start of the year. So that's how you miss out on winning a championship, is by just not having those clean starts to the year where you just rack up some good points. Lee Holdsworth used to be good at it when he was just in a good car, except maybe 2011. Maybe he just didn't stitch it together when he was at Tickford, and maybe it had been shaken out of him driving for uncompetitive teams. Will Davison was a little bit disappointing like that, but he did quite decently from 2009 onwards 2011, I don't know, maybe it was just he had to work out the FPR car. But even in Techno, he could have done a better job. But yeah, Chaz Mostert from 2017 onwards did a brilliant job. 2019, he got turned around. That was a Tickford thing. They released Chaz into Rick and it spun him around. Stephen Johnson was actually pretty decent at it from 2006 to 2009, and then I guess from that point onwards, 2010 onwards, struggled to do things properly, probably distracted by how all the stuff that was going on at DJR at the time. But the record for most consecutive top 10s at the start of a season was Rick Kelly in 2007. Ridiculous. Got 18 in a row. And the only reason he didn't win the championship that year is because he just didn't win enough races. It was Garth Tander who won that year. And Jamie Whincup had a great end of the year, and Craig Lowndes probably racked up quite a few points as well. Rick ended up 4th, probably just from not having a very good Phillip Island. Like, it's pretty rare for someone to get 10 in a row, let alone anything more than that. There's always going to be the, oh, if this didn't happen, then this would have happened, and blah, blah, blah. Well, it's all nice to talk about it, but this is what actually happened, alright? If the team got all their ducks in a row and nailed it, and the driver didn't do anything stupid, you have a great start to the year. And then once you have that great start to the year, then you can start going for the big points, if you think that's what you need to do. But it really counts, having that consistency. That's how Russell Engel won the championship, and he probably wasn't the guy to do it, but he did it. That's how Rick Kelly won the championship, and from that point onwards he worked out that's what he needed to do. And set that record in 2007 with a much better car. Just from those numbers alone, just from all those stats, we've got 6 drivers who are more likely to win the championship than anyone else. And sure, somebody might come out of the bottom of the championship and win lots of races and score podiums and win a championship, but they're not necessarily looking good at the moment. But the guys who've had a good start to the season, all they have to do is continue that or improve on it, which is probably putting more pressure on them than is fair. But everybody's trying to win the race anyway, so it's not like you're really putting much more pressure on them than they're putting on themselves or their team's putting on them. It's about how they handle that pressure. And I think Chaz Mostert doesn't really put too much pressure on himself. He seems to handle himself quite well. So I'd rate him to win the championship if Walkinshaw can give him that consistent car every round. Brock Feeney is probably most likely to do it because he just seems to be able to nail it. He had a difficult end to 2023, but he still managed to do a better job than Will Brown, but it's a different team, a different environment. Triple Eight especially seemed to be really good at making sure those drivers had great starts to the year once they got Craig Lowndes sorted, and pretty much every year from that they had Shane Van Gisbergen, they had a competitive car and a driver that didn't put it in the fence or have a rough race or anything like that. That was just, this is what they had to do, and they knew they had to do it, so that's what they did. But also, the strong starts to the year give you a pretty good idea of how their championship's going to go, unless they had to do spectacularly badly, which happened to James Courtney in 2017. He had a great start to 2017, 4th and 3rd at Adelaide, and ended up 21st in the championship, and that was an absolute disaster of a year. To have such a great start and then just have a car that was not able to deliver, and a few stupid driving errors from him, it was a absolute mess of a year. It's not just about banking those top 10s, it's also about having a fast car. If you've got the fast car, you can bank those podiums, those wins, and get the championship. There's so many different factors that go into it. But overall, you got to have that good start to the year. And we've got 6 guys who've had a brilliant start to the year. Matt Payne managed to get it into the top 10. Nick Percat was in that shootout both races. Dave Reynolds had a great start to his time at Team 18. Chaz Mostert is exactly where he probably was going to be. He's been doing a great job every year at the start of every year. And Brock Feeney has stepped up once again to getting pole positions and winning races. And Will Brown has shown that he's definitely got what it takes. And maybe that back end 23 was less Will and more Erebus. Who knows? Plenty to unfold, but from racking up some good points, if you keep it tidy, if you keep your racing clean, if you drive fast, but maybe I'm just pointing out the obvious.